Welcome back to Ambulance Chasers, episode number 5. I'm Paul Miller, along with my law partner, Renee Vinett. Episode 5.
Yes,
And
here we are.
Here we are. Now, I haven't seen you in a while,
Right?
but I was talking to your husband, Mike Henry of Howie Saxon Henry,
Yes.
and he was telling me, you're not going to believe this, but we got broken into again.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, my recollection is not only did you get broken into again, but you've had like 2 or 3 cars stolen from the driveway.
Well, two stolen from the driveway, but one of those cars stolen with a break and enter to get the keys.
I'm not even going to ask where you live because I don't want to know because property values are going down. So,
yeah. All of the thieves know where we live.
Apparently, they must know that you have good stuff. But
Well, I have good taste.
good taste. But I guess what I want to talk about is one, the trauma of having the break-ins. That's number one.
Right.
And then you got to deal with the insurance company. And didn't you guys have a major flood also?
Yes. It's like every time the phone rings, I just cringe because I don't know what bad thing's going to happen next. The first break and enter, I think, freaked my husband out more than it did me because I knew we were upstairs asleep. But
Oh, you were at home.
yeah, we were at home, and it was like 4 a.m, and so they kick in the front door, and by the time my husband snores, so I had earplugs in, I did not hear all of it, but he said, somebody's in the house. I could hear that part. And he runs out and he looks over, we sleep on the second floor. He looks over the balcony, looks down at the front entrance. I was the last one to come up from downstairs. And the first thing he says to me when he sees the door wide open, "You left the goddamn door open." As if like dumbass Renee, of course, there she goes, leaving the door wide open again. Then it dawned on him that the car was gone, our wallets were gone, and all that kind of stuff.
So just tell me, I've had my car stolen out of my driveway long time ago. And it's traumatic, but I've never had someone break in. That's got to be a different feeling.
Well, since I've had 2 break and enters, one for the sole purpose of they wanted my car.
Okay.
I just thought they could have been polite, knocked on the door, and I would just asked for my keys because I would have given them to them. Like it wouldn't have been an issue.
All right.
I didn't feel afraid. I was annoyed, but I wasn't afraid or feel personally threatened when they came into my home that first time because I knew their agenda was my car. Period.
Just because they grabbed the keys, left,
and they were out of there.
They were out of there.
Yeah.
And where were the keys?
Well, they were downstairs near
the front door.
Near the front door.
And I've read many articles, blogs, whatever. Experts say leave your keys near the front door because if they want them, they're going to grab them and they're going to get out of there. And that's better for you.
Yes, because the week before, about 2 streets over from us, someone who had a much more beautiful car than I will ever own. It was 3 guys, broke into their house. His wife was upstairs, locked into the bedroom, on the phone with the police, and they were roughing up her husband because he refused to give the keys. And so she's talking to the police and they're like, give them the keys, So, so on the car front, it's not that big a deal. But about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago, we came home and went up to my bedroom. We turned off the alarm when we came in the front door. We had no reason to suspect there was any issues. And then I go into my bedroom and the jewelry box is strewn all over the place. The drawers are pulled out and clothes pulled out. The closet is turned upside down. And it was another break and enter. So
Through the bedroom this time.
Through the bedroom window. So they climbed on the second story roof and climbed through.
Did they have a ladder there?
No, they crawled up the downspout.
Oh, jeez.
I think they jumped up on the hot tub and crawled up on. Anyway, the bottom line is they knew my house
Yeah.
because they only went in our bedroom where there wasn't a motion detector. There is now a motion detector, and they didn't go into the bathroom and they didn't go into the hallway. So whoever it was at least familiar with our alarm system.
Okay.
And that really kind of makes you uneasy.
Right.
Because I mean they just wanted my stuff.
Yep.
But the fact that they're that they can climb up on the second story and come in through your bedroom just makes you feel a little bit less secure.
And was this during the day that they did this? Or was it dark already, do you think?
No, it would have had to have been during the day.
Have you thought about getting a dog?
Yeah. Then I'd have to raise it. Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean,
And I mean, how is it dealing with the insurance companies?
well, on that one, the first one, no big deal. We didn't put a house claim in because they kicked in our front door. We just fixed it. It was as much as the deductible. And but on the car, I had full replacement value. So I wasn't out any money, thank God.
Right.
So that part was fine.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we had a flood 6 months ago in the basement when everybody was flooded around Toronto anyway. Yeah. And we did make a claim for that because it was substantial. So on this one, we didn't make a claim.
Okay.
You just...
So the insurance company doesn't have you guys up on the wall saying, if we get a call from these folks, be aware.
We're moving. We've decided that a move is much better at this point.
Oh, are you guys going to move?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, that is, I remember when my car was stolen, it was a minivan. And
they steal minivans?
They stole a minivan because back then, this would have been probably late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
And we had a Toyota Sienna. And I remember I got up in the morning, I look outside, car's not there. Yeah. I call the police. I'd like to report my vehicle stolen. What makes you think it's been stolen? Well, it's not there. And they asked me for the license plate, and they said, all right, well, we didn't tow it. So that's what they were.
All right.
And so, and I remember them saying, the insurance company, you get 30, we wait 30 days before it's declared not recoverable.
Yeah.
And I did not want it back at that point.
Right,
that was number one. And I said, okay, now what do I do in terms of getting a car until you deem it stolen, gone?
Right.
And back then, the Insurance Act provided for something like 30 days. You could have 30 days up to $900. Okay. I've got twins. Like, they're 2 or 3 years old. Right. I'm not getting a Toyota Versa for my twins, or a Mini. Yeah. And, like, I fought tooth and nail with the insurance company. This was so ridiculous. Right. Because probably a week and a half would have used up that $900. Yeah. But they were so difficult to deal with. And
I didn't even bother getting a rental car anytime. Yeah. It just, why?
Well, that was our only car at the time.
Well, obviously I had access to my husband's car. Right. So,
but that was our only car, and that had the car seats in it. And, that was where the twins would, get transported around in that. And I just remember that it was just a terrible feeling that someone took my car. Now, the police said Toyotas, and it's still true today, Toyotas are still the most popular cars to steal because for some reason they're easy to steal. And they put them on boats and they put them over.
And Hondas. I thought Hondas were worse even.
A friend of mine had a Lexus stolen out of his driveway, and 3 of them. Right. And he came to me and said, can I start a class action against Lexus? They never told me about how popular these cars were to steal. I said, no, you could have Googled it.
It's funny. It's like, why get the same thing again and again and again when you know that there's an issue there? Right. I did not do that.
I said to him, after the second or third one was stolen, I said, dude, you have a garage. Well, there's stuff in it. Get the stuff out, because once it's in the garage, they're not going to take it as easily.
Easily, but they have busted into garages in my neighborhood.
Oh, is that right?
Absolutely. So
And not getting the keys, but able to get into the vehicle and start it.
that's for those that you can do that with.
Right.
Some cars you have to have the keys.
Right. Now, when your car was stolen, did you want it back? Because I know I didn't want my car back.
I mean,
I would have found it weird to have my car back after it was stolen.
well, I didn't even think about if I was going to get my car back. I just didn't think I was gonna. Right. And I mean, it's not like I went out the next day and started looking for cars or anything. But no, I never really thought about it. Yeah, but neither one of them came back. So
Now, between you and your husband, who got more freaked out?
My husband.
How did he get, what was his reaction to all this?
He put on extra locks on the doors. Right. He got a security guy in to look at, enhancing our security systems, putting, the glass shatter mechanism, and I'm not calling it by the right terminology.
I don't even know what that is.
But it's just if glass is broken or if a window's broken, then it will set off the alarm.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So he was going to do all these things. It was going to cost some extraordinary amount of money. And what he was thinking of doing, I was like, it didn't make sense to me. So I'm like, it was like $6,000 to make the sliding glass doors in the back where they couldn't shatter them. And I'm like, nobody's coming through those doors because they've got, triple panes or whatever. Right. It's the windows that are at issue. So we didn't do it.
So, you look at, recently in the city, over the last year, the number of these smash and grabs at malls is really, really nervous. And it just seems people are more brazen. Do you know if there's been more robberies in your neighborhood over the last number of years?
Oh, well, I just know with the car thefts that have been going on, our neighborhood is one of the worst hit. Right. I also know that there has been a rash of break-and-enters, including our house, where they smash windows in and they go in during the day. Right. They suspect it's teenagers. Who knows? But whoever it was who came into our house, they busted out a very narrow window. So for them to be able to get through the window.
They're small.
They're a small person. Yeah.
Okay.
So
it was not me.
But interestingly, as if.
Because Renee knows I could not climb up to the second floor.
Oh, no. That has nothing to do with him fitting through the little window.
Hey.
But, I couldn't fit through the little window. But the interesting thing is that so many neighborhoods, and I'm sure you've heard of other people who've gone through the same thing, they've hired private security.
Yes.
And, it's like, it's just so frustrating that you have to go to that extent.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't be that way. And whether or not that will really stop the burglaries and the car thefts is anybody's guess, because that's one little security guy who's driving around in a car. Yeah. And the people who came to my house when they, for the car, front door home invasion, it was 3 grown men with, and they're masked up and they've got the hoods on them and the whole 9 yards, as well as, and then across the street, it was, 4 people. Right. So one little security guard in a little car driving around is not going to be much help.
I have a friend. This is years and years ago. It was Christmas holidays, and I think their kids were like 2 and 4. Some they were 1 and 3.
Right.
And they ordered, I think he said sushi, and doorbell rings, and he goes to answer the door. 3 guys in masks with guns bust in, and home invasion. Tie him up, tie his wife up. They think they've got money from drugs. They got, and they were threatening to kill them if they didn't.
The money had already been picked up?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it turns out, and this goes on for hours, and they thought they were going to harm the kids. The kids weren't harmed.
Yeah. That is terrible.
And he said he had the gun to his temple, saying, tell me where everything is. Finally, everything finished. They call the police. These guys came to the wrong house. It was the one across the street. And, after I heard this story years ago, if someone rings my doorbell, I am so nervous now. And growing up, the doorbell would ring.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even look. You would just open the door.
Yeah. The door wouldn't have been locked.
No, the door wasn't locked. And I remember, like, the other day, someone rang my doorbell, and I go to my office in the house, which is right by the front door, and I look out the window, and it's a guy in a Bell telephone jacket. First of all, I don't even think we have a Bell telephone. And I don't know. And I'm like, I opened the window. I said, "Can I help you?" He said, "Yeah, I just want to talk to you about whatever."
It's a salesman.
Yeah. And I'm like, you just don't know these days. Mm-hmm. And it's a terrible thing where people can't come to your door and ring a doorbell anymore because you're nervous. And everyone's got cameras now. And it's crazy. But fortunately, you guys were all safe.
Yeah, we were fine.
Yeah.
We were fine.
Your husband, I know, is nervous.
Trust me, he sleeps at night. He snores. I have proof.
Well, you should bring that in one time. You should bring that in.
Bring what in?
A sound of him snoring.
Oh, it never records as
as
significant
loud
as it is.
as loud. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, let's talk some law other than criminal law.
Okay.
All right. Trying to think about things we've talked about, and I think probably what I'd like to find out is what's the best case? What's your most memorable case?
My most memorable case is probably my best win at trial.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was a case where a young teen was a passenger in a motor vehicle accident, and he suffered a concussion. And ultimately, though, the depression that arose from the concussion and all the cognitive issues and whatnot, and the change in his circumstance, went untreated to the point that he became psychotic. And he was hospitalized in a psychiatric ward for an extended period of time to get stabilized, and he had to be on antipsychotics for the rest of his life. And at first glance, you would say, I mean, my impression was this at first glance, that, he was when he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, which is, if you're going to be diagnosed with schizophrenia, you're usually a young male in your late teens or early 20s. And so he fit that description very very closely. Yep. And so that's what the defendants were arguing, is that this is just schizophrenia and has nothing to do with the accident. Or if he has become psychotic, he has become psychotic due to marijuana abuse.
Really?
Yeah. And so we got a neuropsychiatrist to do a thorough analysis of the case and to, weigh in. And this neuropsychiatrist was able to determine, based on, the progression or the deterioration of his condition and the lack of treatment that he had received for these very real issues. And the behavioral changes were subtle, and then it became a snowball effect to where he was psychotic, right? And so, and we do know, I know now, that untreated depression can definitely result in psychoses. Really? And so, as a result, that is, that was our theory of the case. And the jury believed us. That's a
tough one. That's a tough case.
Yeah. We had, and what was fun about that is it was a case where the defendants, I think they with the greatest of respect to them, and I won't name names or anything, but
you'll tell me after.
Yeah, but I think they kind of mismanaged the optics in front of the jury, because what they did is they had the they're psychological experts. So a neuropsychologist versus a neuropsychiatrist give evidence. And he was actually in the courtroom for a lot of the evidence. And at one point, the counsel was cross-examining a witness and turned around to the doctor who was in, what is it called?
The gallery.
The gallery, yes. And asked if he needed that to be put in as an exhibit.
What?
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Bizarre. But so in many respects, that was a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
That was just hand delivered to me.
Right.
And it was clear that there was bias going on, that this doctor was part of the legal team, not an objective expert.
He wasn't trying to be there to advise them on expertise and psychosis.
Exactly. And I think, plus, I had a lot of other good things. Yeah. Good, strong points that were definitely well made with the right witnesses and that kind of thing. And the jury, it made my summations much easier.
Yeah. Was the young man who was injured, was he able to testify, or was he?
Yes.
He
no,
was.
he was able to.
How did he do?
He did well.
Yeah.
He did well, and his parents did well. In fact, I'm not considered the most emotional person. I'm not, cold-hearted, really. Although my ex-husband used to say, Renee, when it comes to the milk of human kindness, you ain't the cow. But
I'm sorry, this ex-husband.
Ex-husband, not current husband.
No, I just want to make emphasis. Emphasis.
Exactly. So, but I remember that when, first of all, very nervous doing a trial like this. Sure. For me. Very nervous because it matters, right? I'm very passionate about doing the right thing for my client. But when his mother gave her evidence, I actually had tears in my eyes, and that was just a genuine reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's talking about tears. When we did the Ukrainian airline case last year, and it's under appeal right now. This was a very technical case because this was all about liability, except on the last day. And the last day of the evidence, we had a client, the brother of the client who passed away. She was in the Tehran airport texting with her brother who was in London, England. And so we had the brother read the real-time texts. And myself, my co-counsel Joe Fiorante, Valerie Lord, and Jamie Thornback, we all knew the brother. He'd been in Toronto. We've spent time with him. We spent time with the family. And when the text messages came up, it's like, I'm really afraid. Everyone in the airport's really afraid. And then he says, Shadi, get on the flight. We got to get you out of there. What about Dad? I can't leave Dad here. There's going to be a war. Dad has been through this before. Just get out. And then she writes, what if they misidentify us? And she gets on the plane and a half an hour later. And it was so emotional. And it was like the four of us were tearing up.
Right.
And
what does that mean, misidentify?
It was
like
misidentified.
In what context?
That the IRGC, the Iranian National Guard, Revolutionary Guard, has a reputation of misidentifying civilian aircraft for military.
Now that I understand.
And there had been warnings that night by the FAA and by a independent risk analysis group that was publicly available that there's extreme risk of misidentification by the Iranian military. And but just to hear him say that, I can't believe he could even read it. Those were the last words with his sister.
Because certainly I'm sure he feels responsible
He
now.
does. And the judge was in tears. The judge was in tears. And
that's really unusual for a judge.
it is.
Any judge.
And this judge knew this was Justice Akbar Ali. And, and she throughout the trial used this new concept that I didn't know anything about of a trauma-informed approach, to the point that we would preview in the morning of the trial, we would preview what the evidence was going to be that day in general, so she could then warn the family members who were either in the courtroom or on Zoom, this is what you're going to be hearing.
Right.
So, like, if you need to excuse, we're giving you the heads up because some of this is going to be really difficult. And I will never forget, one day she said to the gallery and to the people on Zoom, and it might have been for the closing arguments,
Okay.
if you need to cry, cry. Because there's a good chance I'm going to cry too. Okay. And that was actually, clients really were grateful for that. Mm-hmm. And I think there's more of that probably coming in certain types of cases, this trauma-informed approach.
Yeah, and that's really, it's a new concept.
It is.
In litigation.
It totally.
Because it's always been, if you bring your lawsuit, the defendants, they can do anything to you basically under cross-examination.
They victimize you.
Yeah. And potentially that is going to be stopped to the extent possible. I mean, they are allowed to question. They are allowed to take issue with positions that are taken by plaintiffs. And it's not a pretty business. Litigation's not a pretty business.
No, but it shouldn't be open season to assail someone's character at any cost. And,
exactly.
And, I've started doing some of these CAS cases. And I remember the first one I got, probably 2 years ago, the client was angry with me.
And if anyone's not in Canada, Children's Aid Society, or Ontario for that matter.
Children's Aid Society, thank you.
Yeah.
And the client was really mad at the way I was talking to him. And he said, you know what? You need to treat me with a trauma-informed approach. And I said to him, I won't say his name, but I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Help me out.
Yeah.
Educate me. I'm happy to learn, but I don't know what you're talking about. And it is a different way of dealing with people for sure.
I've seen maybe one continuing legal education discussion about that, but I really haven't seen any significant movement towards providing that type of education.
I think you're going to start seeing it in the next 2 years.
Yes.
It's
important.
It is. So when I had spoken about the crash at a conference, and they brought in Eden Dales, who's a social worker who people in the personal injury bar will know quite well.
Sure.
And she spoke because she was the person who put the guidelines together for our trial for the trauma-informed approach. And she was saying how she took, I think it was a 2-year course of how to deal with trauma-informed approaches. And that this is going to be a new way, especially in criminal court, sexual assault, rape cases, abuse cases. And so it's all something that it's going to take some time for us who have been practicing a long time to get used to. But I think it's fantastic that more attention is paid and not re-traumatizing people for the things that they've gone through, because they shouldn't be victimized again.
Well, and there are some defense counsel, and we're talking personal injury. Just because that's our main area of expertise. They will just make mincemeat of a plaintiff, keep them on the stand, cross-examining them. Really, I think that what they hope to do is to push them to just withdraw the claim.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least that's one significant motivating factor.
I don't disagree with you, and everyone has a job to do, but there are lines.
Yeah.
And
Well, there's moral lines and ethical lines.
absolutely. And hopefully, victims of these horrible situations, whether it's motor vehicle accidents, abuse, rape cases, sexual assault, get treated better.
And I think that we as lawyers and the law societies across all the provinces in Canada really should be pushing this forward.
I agree with you.
It really should be part, almost a mandatory program that each lawyer should have to take.
I agree.
At least one program.
I wouldn't be surprised if somehow it gets wrapped into the EDI requirements over the next couple of years.
Yeah, that would sort of dovetail nicely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think that's our time for today.
Okay.
Great seeing you again.
Good seeing you.
And please, everyone, if you're watching or listening to Ambulance Chasers, please hit the like, subscribe, and whatever else you can do to promote us anywhere on social media. We'll be back with episode 6 and see you real soon.